Rebecca Warboys is a midwife who works in practice for the NHS, and she's also an IBCLC, so that's an internationally board certified lactation consultant, so an expert in breastfeeding, and she also works as a teacher and trainer and is super busy. I don't know how she fits it all into the day. And Becky's going to talk to us about executive functioning in autistic new parents tonight. So thank you very much, Becky.
Thank you so much. So, Amy asked us to come up with topics we want to talk about. And Karen was just touching on this now, both in executive functioning and with new parenting. And I think it's kind of one of those slightly forgotten about topics. And it's something that, as a midwife, I see people really, really struggling with. And when you become a midwife, when you work with autistic people, neurodivergent people, the idea is that we are there to make people's lives better. That's what we do. So the whole point is, let's look at what you struggle with. Let's use our expertise and our learning to help it be even easier. So that's what this is all about today. So we're going to have a look at that. But first of all, I'm going to introduce myself. So this is me with my brood. I wish I was as young as that now, because the little baby there is about to be 16 in January. So I've been there as a parent going through these struggles. I didn't know about neurodivergence then, as so many of us do. I learned about my own. I'm autistic and I've got ADHD. And I learned about that through my own children's journeys into that, which has been absolutely amazing. And now my whole world's about autism, to be quite frank with you. So part of the work I do, as well as educating, I teach online every week to, oh gosh, hundreds of parents through an online platform doing antenatal education. And it's very much about preparing them for the realities of what it's going to be like as a new parent. Because what I find is parents who aren't prepared for what that reality is going to be like, aren't prepared to cope with that, really struggle, and it really does affect their mental health. Whilst if they're ready for it, they know what it's going to be like, it makes it so much easier. So having been there 4 times myself, having got all the t-shirts with ADHD, autism, having part of my working life as well as midwifing as I mentor autistic and neurodivergent people as well. So I'm hoping that all this together will make life easier. And what I should say is my master's is in autism, so hence where I come from, the autistic side as well. Okay, let's have a little look. So, autistic struggles with executive function. These slides are a little bit dry and boring, so I'm always trying to make it interesting. So I might do a little dance or something like that just to make it a bit more interesting, because it's very much death by PowerPoint otherwise. So there we go. I could jump into song, but Amy might look at me strangely because I'm currently rehearsing for Flint Street Nativity and doing a beautiful rendition of Away in a Manger for you, but I'll save you of that one as well. Let's get going. Okay, so people who are autistic can struggle with their executive dysfunction. It's not just people with ADHD, of course. So we can have difficulties planning activities, including working out the order of steps. So much of my mentorship is about actually saying, okay, this is what you've got to do. Let's work out the priority level. Let's work out the different steps involved. I took with a neurodivergent student, they had a 2,000-word document provided for an assignment, which was the assignment brief. And we got the 2,000 words down to 300 words. And I think that's what it's all about. There was only 300 useful words in there. So it's getting rid of all those noise and helping people. And that can be really, really hard to do that for yourself. We often depend on routine. That's part of the criteria for an autistic diagnosis, because we're looking for those restricted repetitive behaviours and interests, one of which is the fact that I love my routine. As soon as I am not there at that particular time, everything goes out of the window and my washing isn't going to get done and the washing machine is certainly not going to get emptied. But if I'm still in my routine, I'll execute that beautifully. We can become overwhelmed when there's a lot of things. You're given a lot of instructions. So we just want to know the next step, not the 39 steps. Now, you've got a new baby. I'm going to give you a discharge talk. And in that discharge talk, I'm going to give you everything you need to know about looking after a new baby in the next 2 weeks. And I'm going to give you that in half an hour. That's quite overwhelming. You can have difficulty getting started on things. That's your initiation paralysis. I see this all the time. I always liken it to being stood at the end of a lake and knowing you've got to get into the water. And once you're in the water and you've taken that first step, it's easy to keep on going and wading through. But it's just that point of which I know I've got to step in the water, but I really don't want to do it. And that's your initiation paralysis. Trouble switching your attention from one task to the next. I've done that. Okay, that's done. Now I need to move on to the next thing. And how many tasks do we have when it comes to new parenting? Time blindness. I can honestly say I am very, 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 very time blind, but not as time blind as my daughter, who literally we can lose her in the toilet for 3 hours. So we have to say if we're in a public place, right, we'll knock on the door to tell you it's time to come out because she just loses time. Struggling to remember one thing when you're doing the next thing. So, okay, I'm focusing on this thing. So that's it. Everything else that I've got to do is gone. So I'm focusing on changing the nappy. I've forgotten the fact that I was meant to be getting ready to go to nursery or to do whatever it was I was meant to do next. The forgetfulness is real, not just with perimenopause. I could talk about that in neurodivergence as well till the cows come home. We have difficulty meeting deadlines sometimes, difficulty making your choices. That's about the analysis paralysis. How true is that in the whole maternity journey? It's all about choices. And it's like, well, I don't know, just tell me what to do. That's what it comes down to. And actually, people don't really want to be told what to do because, like we talked about with our friend who asked the question earlier, it is about having that freedom to make those choices, but having the space to be able to make those choices as well. So the sensory struggles we have, which have been talked about so beautifully by all my colleagues, that can take a lot of energy away from what we need to executive function. So if anyone's heard of spoon theory, once you've run out of spoons, there's no spoons left, and sensory struggles do that. A tendency to burn out from stress, the emotional response that might seem disproportionate. I see that regularly in my clinics, at work when I'm working with neurodivergent people, and other people think they're overreacting, and actually you're seeing complete overwhelm, aren't you, which we can call meltdown. Some references that I use to compile that there. Why am I clicking and the next slide coming up? Any second now it should. There we go. I've done about 30 clicks because I also get really impatient. So it's probably all going to jump at one time now. Okay, so add those struggles into the life-changing experience of being a new parent. Let's have a look. So these struggles that make functioning even harder include the sensory challenges from the early postnatal period, including that postnatal ward environment and parenting a newborn baby. Not the least sensory experience of my life. Got to be honest with you. Probably one of the most challenging. Communication challenges, understanding and making themselves understood with health professionals at what is a really, really vulnerable time. Difficulties managing the change in their routine and the transition into being a new parent, as well as all the things that being a new parent means for anybody. No time to yourself. Been there, still living it 23 years later. As Amy knows, for today, I was like, we've just got to slot in around my children, even at 21, one of them struggling at the minute. A whole new human being to keep alive. That's fun. And apparently it doesn't stop in the newborn phase. You've got to keep it going. Every single experience is a new one. You don't have any reference guide. And it's all done on very, very little sleep. I remember it too well. It is absolutely endless. Some examples of how those innate challenges with executive function, therefore, can impact that newborn period. Forgetting all those millions of appointments. Remembering to do the endless list that comes with a new baby. Did you remember to buy the wipes when you did the Asda shop? Did you remember to buy the nappies? Did you also remember that you were meant to book that appointment with the doctor? Difficulty keeping track of the time that's elapsed since the last feed and the last nappy change. So this can be, my time blind daughter, I'd be really worried if she had a sleepy baby that needs to be woken up, that she could easily go 10 hours without realizing the baby hasn't fed because it wouldn't feel like 10 hours to her. So how do we keep track of that? What can we do about it rather than making people feel bad about these functional difficulties? Unable to organize yourself and baby in order to be able to even leave the house or even get out of your PJs on a morning. Forgetting to feed yourself, that happens a lot more often than you'd think. And difficulties making decisions about the baby's needs or solving problems like what to do when you're on your own with your baby and you need the loo. We've all been there as well. So what can parents do? Just a few suggestions. Not to judge themselves too harshly. They're doing the best that they can. Plan as much as possible during pregnancy to start to get an idea of what the routines might look like. A routine does not have to be a whole day's routine, but lots of little ones. So you just have, okay, this is my routine to get up on the morning. This is the routine I execute when it's time to go out of the house. Consider things that your partner can help with, like shopping, or even book an online shop, even better. And work out phone reminders with your healthcare professional to help you remember meds or when you need to wake your baby for feeds, for example. There's so much.